Did 5 million crowns in humanitarian aid for Palestinian civilians through the World Food Programme and 5 million crowns for Israeli health organizations. President Herzog thanked Pavel for his support and also welcomed the joint statement by Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala and Austrian Chancellor Karel Nehammer, opposing any attempt to politicize the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which is now hearing a complaint from South Africa alleging that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The Israeli president said it was important to understand the threat that Hamas presents to the world at large.
If we were not here, Europe will be next. We are defending Europe and we are defending the rest of the world, the United States, and that is why the world has to support us in our battle.
The Czech head of state also met for talks with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who briefed Pavel on development in the war against Hamas and thanked him for the unreserved support of the Czech government and Czech people for the state of Israel. The two leaders also discussed strengthening cooperation in fields of security, energy, agriculture and innovation. According to the Czech head of state, the Israeli leadership is not united on the issue of a two-state solution to the conflict in the Middle East and the possible creation of an independent Palestine. Pavel said he agreed with Herzog that the path to some form of Palestinian statehood would present a long-term solution, but noted that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not convinced this would solve the problem. As an alternate option, the Czech president mentioned the possible creation of a regional coalition backed by Arab states to ensure the long-term governance of the Gaza Strip, which would last until the Palestinians themselves have the capacity to administer it on their own. On Wednesday, President Pavel is due to hold talks in Qatar, where he will also discuss justice in the Middle East.
And that was Daniela Lazarova with that story. A replica of a famous clock tower that used to stand outside Prague's Florence metro station for nearly 4 decades has returned to its former location. The original steel structure from the mid-1980s had degraded beyond repair due to extensive corrosion and had to be removed in 2020. Ruth Frankelman reports.
The clock tower, called Radio Clock, designed by academic sculptor Rudolf Svoboda in 1985, shows the time in a number of ways, including a world time board indicating time in 10 world capitals, says art curator Agata Hoshnova from the Prague City Gallery.
It's a 12 meters long vertical sculpture that carries a round clock of a very simple design, and this clock is embedded in one of the two vertical towers that are kind of reaching towards the sky. And what I think is the most interesting element of this sculpture is situated in its lower part, and it's an old analog split clock with different real times from around the world.
A striking piece which can even function as a giant sundial stands on the border of design and fine art and is several part of the Florence metro station, says Ms. Hoshnova.
What I think is quite interesting is that when the Florence metro station was designed, it was kind of designed in a holistic way as total work of art. In art history, this is known as Gesamtkunstwerk, which means that it considers thoroughly all the elements of the realization of the station. But the architecture, the design, and the planning piece wasn't only focusing on aesthetic, they also included projects for artworks in public space. So I think this is quite important because it was always considered to be part of the wider area of Florence.
Rudolf Svoboda, who was born in 1934, was a graduate of Prague School of Fine Arts, and his style spans from figurative pieces to abstract and futuristic sculptures, influenced by advances in technology, using a wide variety of materials. Among other works of art created by Svoboda that can be seen in the capital is another flip clock system located on the Mihulka Tower at Prague Castle. Another of his well-known pieces is the return of clock from 1917. That's Ms. Hoshkova.
It was in the central telecommunication building in Prague, but later it was considered lost for 17 years. And then it was found again in 2015 in Plzeň in a pile of rubbish. So it was quite a lucky accident that it was found again. This bicycle seat is supposed to be placed again in this location in Pskov, but it still hasn't been confirmed. So this one is still a bit of an uncertain future.
The meticulous replica of the clock tower, which was initiated by Prague City Hall, was unveiled at Florence at the end of last year. It is fully functional and, unlike the original, it can be remotely controlled and maintained. Its return is just part of a complex transformation of the area, which will include placing a new light installation in the renovated metro lobby.
And that was Ruth Frankenbauer with that report. Just a reminder that you're listening to Radio Prague International, the external service of Czech Radio, where it's now time for today's feature. You may have heard our interview this past weekend with the very funny Rainy Brittle, whose Instagram videos about life in Prague as an expat have garnered thousands of followers. And if you didn't, then make sure to check that out. So in the same vein, here's an earlier interview we did with another hilarious Instagrammer whose videos take inspiration from Czech jokes and cultural commentary.
Hey Siri, is it a good weather to Israel? Today, very good, perfect prior.
And that was a clip featuring the infamous interview of Czech skier Stanislav Resac. It's from the Instagram profile of Arthur Kornienko, better known online as Just Czech Things. If you're an Instagram user living in Prague, you may have scrolled past content by the account of Kornienko, a profile with over 65k followers run by the 32-year-old. Originally from Russia, Kornienko is often mistaken as a Prague or Czech local based on the memes he makes that take inspiration from Czech jokes and cultural commentary. During the day, Kornienko works in marketing, but after hours, he's also the creator, and he came by the studios to tell us more about the account and his many sources of inspiration.
Well, I'm a humble meme maker during the night and just normal person during the day. My name is Arthur. I'm actually 32 years old. And I'm not from Europe. Some people think that I'm from Czech Republic or from Europe. I'm actually far away from Europe. I actually come from Russia, and I've been living in Czech Republic for 9 years, so I'll say long enough.
Wow. And what brought you to the Czech Republic originally?
Quite simple reason. I came here to study for my master's, and I got my master's and stayed, to work.
Okay. And what about the Czech Republic made you stay and eventually made you want to start a meme account?
Okay. And what made me stay? Because I felt like after 2 years living here, I did not 2 years of masters, not enough to kind of dedicate to the country and stick around for more to see, if I get a job and just, to kind of see this Czech life more. Plus I studied in Zlín, small city in Morava. So I wanted to come to Prague and have a real big city life in Czech Republic. So then after my masters, I came here and started working. And as for my account, why did I start that? I've been passionate about content creation all my life, and also I've been very sad about content creation all my life. So I started this account, I believe, in 2019, and at that time, pretty much all this blogger, influencer train had already departed. So I was super late to the party. But I had, I wanted to still do it, quick, I will still do it because I wanted. So I started, and that's
Yeah, you're at over 65k followers.
Yes, here I am sitting in front of you.
You're talking. And my question before we discussed this whole bit about you being from Russia was, why do you do so much content in English?
Yeah.
Because it's all about Czech culture and Czech content. But maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you get your info. How do you ground yourself in all these Czech inside jokes, Czech cultural phenomena? So many of you take these kind of iconic Czech moments and contextualize them for all of us.
Sure. So I will just start a bit, I will just rewind back a bit. When I started this account, I actually wanted to have it as an expat humor. So I wanted to make a poll that I'm an expat living here, making jokes for English-speaking audience. And because obviously English-speaking audience is bigger than Czech one, and my goal was to kind of export Czech humor, Czech lifestyle, and my funny observations, and export it worldwide. So obviously English language was a choice. So I started with that. And I think in the very beginning, a lot of my jokes were like Czech bound, if I can say. They were like for people who live here or been here long enough in case of order to understand that. So right now, if you take a look at my, let's say, latest content I produced, like 6 months or year-long content, I'm trying to kind of lower the entrance barrier for my jokes. I don't want to make jokes only for people who live in Czech Republic or live in Prague. I kind of want to make it more international. Sometimes, like I have it in my bio, like pro bono Czech ambassador. So therefore, I'm trying to kind of explore that humor and culture worldwide. So I'm in the process of making, what I'm producing more accessible for everyone.
And for me, at least, like as a foreigner in the Czech Republic, I'm from Canada originally. Your account has been pretty much like a useful tool as an insight into this culture. There's that great reel you did about the weather, the extreme weather, and I had no idea about this famous trip here to the Zenith. And I sent it to one of my friends, and I'm like, what is this? Like, this is hilarious. But then, you send it to a Czech friend, and you kind of get this whole like cultural phenomenon explained to you about this is like a famous,
It's quite old meme, like on YouTube it was uploaded like more than 5 years ago. So, and I found it quite recently, I kind of brushed off the dust. And like, damn, like it's good to use it. So I tried to spin it around a bit and like.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your process? Like, how do you go about creating your content? Because obviously, like you take these, dust off the archives and take these old kind of cultural moments and put them into more modern content. How do you do that? What's your process?
Well, that's a great question. I think that's like the cornerstone problem of every creative person. I would say in the very beginning, before, like, I don't know, maybe before 30K followers, I was like monitoring the news. I was looking for some meme inspirations or maybe some templates. Looking at some other accounts, like they do similar stuff. I still do it now, but after it picks up a bit, I get a lot of feedback from the audience. So I get a lot of comments, engagement. So I would say my biggest inspiration is my audience, because obviously what I produce is for them. So I get a lot of feedback, so like positive, negative, I welcome both. And from that, I get quite a lot of recently like chain reaction. I make one joke and like 10 new jokes I'm born from that. But also sometimes I just like do my research and just like try to stay, let's say, on the hype wave, so to say. So kind of trending sounds, trending like templates, trending maybe sequences. That's why it's very difficult to differentiate my, let's say, leisure TikTok time or Instagram time versus inspirational TikTok, because let's say my personal feed is like super tailored to some weird jokes that don't have to do anything with the Czech account. But when I get inspiration from my Czech account, it's like on different Instagram or TikTok, so I have to like be focused enough not to lose the focus of what I'm doing. So it's like finding the balance.
And you mentioned you're 32, but a lot of your followers are Gen Z, and you said when we were talking before that you kind of disguise yourself as a Zoomer. So how do you do that? Like, how do you make sure you're relating to that audience that you're trying to target? Because if a lot of your followers on TikTok, they're Gen Z, you're a millennial. So how do you make that marriage work?
Oh no, like I cannot admit I'm not at that age when people are asking me how to relate to the younger generation. Thanks for making me feel old.
You feel on me, 2 years behind you.
Thank you very much. Well, there was this meme, like, I thought it was like grandpa kissing Dylan at the sky, and the caption was like, me every time Zoomer comes up with a new word that I have to learn. So this is very much me. To be honest, it's right now, I think with every year, it's harder to keep up with the latest trends. So I would say, like, as every other adult, I Google, I try to, watch trending reels, trending TikToks to kind of keep up with that stuff. But also, I would say the feedback that the audience provides is like very useful, because they use some phrases, idioms, and like, okay, I didn't know that, need to write it down. So very much the process of keeping up is hard. As I get older, obviously get other responsibilities. And I don't have like family or a dog yet, but I imagine later it will be more difficult. But also, right now I think digital-wise, 1 year passes, and it's like 2 years, like in 2010. You know, content-wise and just trends-wise. Like in 1 year, so much stuff happens that when it used to take 3 years before. So you have to be constantly up to date, I think even like for younger generation, for kids, unless you're like super out of school, don't learn, don't study, don't do anything in TikTok 24/7, you have to able to stay up to date because the world is changing super fast.
For sure, and I think people might not even understand how much time and effort goes into making that content. Like, I know at least my parents will be like, "Oh, what are you guys doing on Instagram?" Like, they don't really get that it's really a full-time job. So, is that ever a problem balancing like your own personal life, your own personal work, and then of course like your TikTok, your Instagram career on the side?
I wouldn't say it's like difficult, but it's mostly about having like let's say balance and spacing properly. So I dedicate, let's say, every day like hour and a half for creation of content creation. Usually I have a notes on in my iPhone, so I have like some sequences or ideas for the reels, or maybe sounds already picked up. So I just open up my phone, because I do most of my editing obviously on the phone, and I use that time already, like free time, and use that input that I already prepared to create some content. It's sometimes you just feel too exhausted, after work, especially you have to like some social life with friends, some sport, some normal human job which I have, and then you have like a bit tired. So I'll say that's one of the problems why I don't develop full-length YouTube videos, because editing takes too much time. So I kind of got used to editing TikToks and Reels, so I can pace myself, but for the full-blown content, for the full lengthy content, it's a bit difficult. I usually postpone it until the weekend.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think what's interesting too about your account is you do like really funny reels about, like for me, it's the Czech style one, like the average Czech male style, the socks and sandals, the Lidl socks. But you also do reels about things like when Czechs get called Eastern Europeans.
Oh yeah.
So you also have like these elements of like socio-political topics. How do you balance like the really funny, but then also the more kind of poignant, important socio-political things in your content?
Okay, I will start with the socks.
You always start with the socks.
Well, because obviously there's like certain number of things everyone who knows Czech Republic at least a little bit can name, like soap, beer, blah blah blah. So obviously I do those jokes, but I feel that if I'm gonna continue making them, I'll be like one quick funny, like one. So I don't want to become that guy whose jokes revolve around certain topics. I try to push my boundaries constantly, because there is no interest, no freshness, no appeal in that. So I try to think of some new topics. And Czechs being Eastern European versus Central European, this is quite recent one that I found out, and actually through the feedback from the followers, because I saw some people taking it super seriously, to the heart. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I saw some conversations, and I'm like, okay, I might have an idea for the reel. I mean, to be honest, it's not a problem to talk about politics, not a problem to talk about social stuff, but since I'm like doing it with humor, you have to strike real like balance between like funny and witty and provoking a bit, because you need to stir up some conversations. But it's very difficult to strike it, because you either going to be super plain, just stating of these facts, which is like weirdly fun and that, but also you risk coming off like offensive on the borderline, like insulting people. So you don't want to also do that. So with politics, you have to be like, you need to find the balance, because you can get a lot of engagement when you post controversial topics, but it's easier, to get engagement, to get some impressions from that. But I feel like people will be arguing more about it, and I kind of don't want my community to be arguing. I want it to be, thriving and having some healthy discussion. So I'm kind of always in search of this like balance, about having balance on one scale provoking stuff, on the other one just interesting and engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think, like, how do you see Czech humor, and how do you feel you've taken on that sense of humor after 9 years of being here and, you know, making jokes about this thing?
Well, definitely I can say that I have some experience with the Czech humor, hands-on. Well, actually Czech humor, I really like it because Czechs can really take the jokes. They can, you know, laugh about themselves even if someone else points out some things they're just okay with that, which is that actually sometimes even themselves even like exaggerated even more from what I started. So that's interesting. Czechs kind of have this like super chill attitude, and I think this is something to learn. That like sometimes you don't have to take a joke too seriously; you just can laugh it off.
Absolutely, it's a good point. And I want to point out your merch here. You're wearing a Thibault Last shirt. Tell me about that.
Well, I don't remember how I came up with that. I remember that I just wanted to make a merch. I was like going through my content for inspiration, and for some reason, like some of my